this gentleman here, he's been beckoning me for the past 3 minutes to come here. What is the name of your stand?
Ashun Noni juice, the wellness drink. Ashun Noni juice, the solution to your illness. Ashun Noni juice, 100% pure, the best noni juice in the world, the best family drink in the world.
Tell us about Ashun.
Ashun Noni juice. All the ingredients in the Ashun Noni juice are 100% natural. And noni is a rich source of vitamin A, C, E, B, B2, B6, B12, calcium, and it contains health properties which makes it possible to handle a whole lot of health conditions. It has anti-allergic property. It has antibacterial property. It has antiviral property. Then it has anti-inflammatory property. It has antidepressant property, antioxidant, adaptogen, analgesic, anti-congestive, and hypertensive.
You know what? Let's keep the rest as a secret.
This is the reason why noni is able to handle all respiratory-related diseases.
Okay.
This is why noni is able to handle all mental health issues.
Wow.
This is why noni is able to handle all viral infections in the human body, including COVID and monkeypox, because noni has antiviral property and anti-inflammatory. So anti-inflammatory deals with the swelling on your skin as well as in your lungs. Is that okay? And noni is very good for tuberculosis and pneumonia. South Africa is using noni to treat tuberculosis and pneumonia and COVID.
Okay.
Is that okay? It handles all the other conditions like the ulcers, diabetes, pressure, and it handles insomnia and a whole lot.
So from here, where can you be located?
Just call this number 020 816 5808. The number again 020 816
Midindi Jacob Ashun Jr. I'm here, CEO of Brain Online Consult. Ashun Noni Juice. Here he produces the best of noni juice in the world. Ashun Noni Juice, the solution to your illness. Ashun Noni Juice, 100% pure, the best family drink in the world. Ninjina ne say, you can't Ashun Noni Juice and noni juice esa yare bebre wapomuden ho enro nyina ewom. What all the vitamins only produce here. Next time, what all the minerals only produce here. Now, a sign a boost to immune system. Number one, immune booster. Now, a sign what a debut woman. A virus infections are burning. A COVID, HIV, AIDS, a monkeypox, any virus infection be a burning produce. A prevent it. Now, sign Asthma. Who we are all infections. Say STIs, sexually transmitted infections and sexually transmitted diseases. Ni nyina no noni handle ma okama. And na titru yankrofo na manom ayi enura ma atwa moyam kuro no ulcer. Mo ulcer no madura ne Ashun Noni juice. And na mo pain say ye wo kotodwe na ye wo ya wo sisi achi obre mo ni nyina no wadura ne Ashun Noni juice. Ye ma me penfo na mu twa bra no modura ne Ashun Noni juice. Hwehwe Ashun Noni juice na fasifie na mmo wabusua no ho ban emfi yarewa ho. Etese na wo de hospital esi wo fie ho. Say ya abofra o, say ya adolescent o, say ya penimo, say ya bro ya kokora o. Obia timinom Ashun Noni juice. Sa wo hwehwe Ashun Noni juice o wiase ba bia to a eno ane o sa obefre number we 020 816 5808 020 816 5808 and at 0244 160 604 0244 160 604.
The next one on there is what's in Noni. And this, to me, is the key to the whole ballgame of Noni. And this was done 20-something years ago by Dr. Neil Solomon at Johns Hopkins Medical Center. He was hired by the Tahitian Noni people to do research on Noni. And he actually got into what's in the pulp of the Noni. So if you open up and go to the second page, open up these 2 pages, 165 compounds in the pulp of the fruit. Okay? You look at the what's in Noni, okay, and just open up the page, it's 2 pages, and there's 165 compounds. That is why Noni works. There's so many compounds in the pulp. I don't know if any of you have heard of zearning, of Dr. Heineke in Noni. Have any of you ever heard of that concept before? I won't get into it too much. A lot of the marketing that's been done by a lot of the Noni companies is that there's a magical compound in the pulp of Noni called zearning. And when you take it, it magically makes everything go away. And Dr. Heineke came to Hawaii in the 60s by the pineapple company. He was looking into pineapple and trying to get bromeliad stuff from pineapples. But he started studying Noni. He studied for 20 years. He couldn't figure out why it worked, but he came up with a hypothesis that there's zearning in Noni. And when you take it, it makes your body produce more zearning and makes you healthy. And a lot of people market it as that's the reason why. Dr. Rissel, at his research, when he did his first dissertation at the University of Hawaii on the cancer, he pointed out that it's totally hypothetical. It doesn't exist. But why Noni works is this, because of all the compounds in the pulp. So if you go back to the first page, if you look at the first compound on there, thymocontanol, fights cancer, precancerous cells. The main thing for us, it stimulates T cell activity. I've worked for years with the University of Hawaii Athletic Department. They found that on torn ligaments, muscles, broken bones, heals without surgery by applying Noni topically. 7 to 10 days, they do MRIs on Achilles tendonitis, totally healed by applying it topically on lotions because it activates cell growth and heals damaged cells. The next one is scopolamine. Scopolamine is the one that's an analgesic. It's a pain reliever. It's also an anti-inflammatory. It's also an antidepressant. We'll get into it later in an article on some of the research that has shown that it's 75% effective as morphine, as a natural pain reliever with no negative side effects. And there's current research out of Germany last year, Hamburg, Germany, more effective or equally effective to tramadol and hydrocortisone. Extract from Noni, not juice, from the pulp. So it's very effective for that. Then the next one down is anthraquinines or anthraquinones. I don't know how to really pronounce it, but that's the one that's antibacterial, antifungal. That's why the fruit, when we dry it, we have no preservatives, has a 2-year shelf life, unrefrigerated, because of what's in the pulp. It retards staph, Strep E. coli. We've actually had lab tests done in a food lab in Honolulu, where they took our fruit leather, put it in incubators at 94 degrees. Generally, they leave it in there for 3 months. At the end of 3 months, if there's no bacteria or fungi, it has a 2-year shelf life. They left ours in there for 3 years. No bacteria, no yeast, no mold, no fungus. It's a 9-year shelf life. They were actually chemists that were also triathletes that used our product. And after 3 months, they started playing games with it to see if they could get bacteria and fungi to grow in it. They'd add stuff to it and wipe it out. And they did it for 3 years, which goes back to the potency of what we do, but also what's in the pulp, what it does. The next one is the terpenes, the phytonutrients, selenium, soluble fiber, cleans the blood, lowers blood sugar levels. There's an article later I get in here from RN nurses eating our fruit leather from over a 200 count down to 130 in 30 days eating fruit, eating the Noni fruit leather. Noni lowers blood sugar levels for diabetics, whether they're type 1 or type 2 diabetic. I also just recently received a testimonial letter from a man who has, when you get diabetes, you can get edema, and I don't know the name, maybe one of you can help me, when you get the spots, the discoloration on your skin from diabetes. Anyway, he had it. He tried creams and drugs, couldn't get rid of it. He tried the Noni lotion, 7 days, his skin cleared up. He said, my pain's gone. And for 3 years, he's been trying other stuff. I've actually had people with edema measure their legs, 6 inches with a tailor's tape, swollen. Apply Noni to it, apply our lotion to it. Every day the swelling goes down an inch a day, down to normal in 5 days, no swelling after that. So it affects water retention, inflammation. Same thing with people with gout and the swelling like that, use the same thing. It has 17 of 20 amino acids and all the 9 essential building blocks for proteins. It has fatty acids for the skin. So these are some of the highlights of what's in noni, but for me, this is why. About 2 years ago, something came across the website of a pharmaceutical company isolating scopolamine. They wanted to patent it and put it in a pill for pain relief. What happened is they found that when they took it out of the whole, it had no effect. So they had nothing they could patent. It wasn't valuable to them. But in the whole, with all these other compounds, it works together in the body and is a pain reliever, which is great for us and not good for them. But again, it goes back to how they used it. They ate the whole fruit.
We're back, everyone, talking about the amazing wonders of noni. Now, on this segment, Richard, let's go into that noni science. I can't wait to share some of these new stories with everyone.
The first entry in Western scientific writings was taken from Captain Cook's log of his voyages in the Pacific. Captain Cook discovered the Sandwich Isles. That's what they called them before we called them Hawaii. And he noted how the locals, the natives, used this noni plant, and it made his daily log book. Okay, so that's the first entry. As we progressed through the ages into the 1950s and 70s, scientists began showing interest in noni, and most of the early research was done that showed noni is effective as an antibiotic and antiviral and antifungal, effective against staph, salmonella, E. coli, H. pylori, yeast, fungi, even TB. So that's the early stuff, all right? Anti-parasitic, and there's still quite a bit of research going on with noni in farm animals as an anti-worm measure. Put noni pulp into the feed of farm animals, and they have much lower rates of intestinal parasites, which is very important, okay? The American Chemical Society did a study that showed noni juice is as effective as rifampicin for tuberculosis. Now, TB is notorious for being difficult to treat. No one drug treats tuberculosis. You need 2, 3, 4, 5 drugs for a year, 2 years. To rid yourself of tuberculosis. And they found that noni is as effective as rifampicin, killing 89% of all the tuberculosis germs that they experiment with. That's amazing, folks. TB is really a problem, and noni can help with that. There's been quite a bit of cancer research. Dr. Hirozumi at the University of Hawaii has spent over 35 years studying noni and cancer. And he found that laboratory animals live 75% longer if given noni when they have cancer. 75% longer. He also found that chemotherapy works better in these animals if they're given noni with the chemotherapy. Okay? Now that's an animal study, but it is significant. Dr. Wang at the University of Illinois found noni is helpful in laboratory animals who have leukemia, helps them fight their disease better. Dr. Hiromatsu studied over 500 tropical plants looking for cancer cures. Of all of the plants he studied, 500, this is a life work, he said noni is the best of all of them. This is the cures in the rainforest concept, folks. Noni is helpful for cancer. Let's see. Dr. Hiwasa found that noni helps to treat ultraviolet-induced skin cancer, sun damage on the skin. And they have studies now, DNA studies, that show the fragments of DNA That's what the sun does to the skin cell DNA, fragments it, and that leads to cancer. That can be reversed, actually reversed with noni juice. Apply it directly on the skin. It helps with sun damage. Dr. Hornick, Louisiana State University, showed noni juice inhibits the growth of new blood vessels into tumor cells. See, tumors can't grow unless they have their own blood supply because they're growing. They can't just, they get to a certain size and there has to be an artery coming in and a vein coming out. And he found that it stopped the process of making a new artery to that tumor in breast cancer. Now, no one's saying that noni juice is a standalone treatment approved for cancer therapy. We're not saying that. What we've learned is noni is good nutritional support for the cancer patient. And studies at the University of Hawaii showed in terminal cancer, where there is no treatment available, nothing's going to work, this is what will take your life, this scenario. They did a study of some 400 terminal cancer patients, and they found that if they took noni, their quality of life improved. They had less pain. They were in a better situation, and that is a true, tremendous benefit. That's our cancer research. Now, perhaps what people take noni more for pain than any other reason. Noni is called the painkiller tree in the Caribbean. And noni does grow all along the tropical zone, all around the equatorial plane around the earth. The plant cannot stand to freeze, so it's a tropical plant, okay? And it's one of the first trees to grow on the volcanic soil. And I remember when we went to look at the volcano on the Big Island of Hawaii, on that new, fresh earth, the lava flows coming right down to the sea, there would be nothing growing except one noni tree. One little scrubby noni tree growing up. That's notorious. That's classic for noni. Wherever there is new land being formed, that noni tree comes up. It just loves the volcanic soil. Okay? So what we find with pain is, Dr. Llanos from University of Metz in France found that noni is about 70 to 75% as effective as morphine for pain. But there's no narcotic in it, there's no stimulant, nothing to become dependent on, but it's that effective for pain. And those studies have been repeated with different methods and confirmed. Dr. Wang confirmed the analgesic effects at the University of Illinois. Dr. Wang also found noni to be a COX-1 and 2 inhibitor. That means it works like aspirin, but without the irritating of the stomach. And that's a huge benefit because many of us can't take the ibuprofen, the aspirin. It's just too hard on the stomach, or they're compromised kidneys or liver, and they just can't do it. Well, no problems like that with noni. But the real magic, as it were, of noni is noni blocks pain in the central nervous system, and it's an anti-inflammatory. So you get a synergy of pain relief that is virtually unheard of in the natural world. Noni relieves pain, okay? And it relieves pain equal to tramadol, or Ultram, is a brand name, which is a Scheduled 3, no, it's a Schedule 4 controlled substance, and noni works as good as that does, but without a prescription, without any narcotic or any dependency-forming substance.
That is just amazing, Richard.
It is, and just last night I was having some physical pain, and it was getting late into the night, and I said, well, boy, I don't want to take any medicine. I have to be on TV tomorrow. So I went down to the kitchen, and I took a big glass of noni juice, and you know what? Within 10 minutes of lying down, I was asleep again, and off I went. I can't tell you how many times I've done that over the last 10 years. Noni is really helpful with pain. Does it help you with pain?
It is just amazing. Richard.
Yeah, have you noticed that?
Yes, it's fantastic for your joints.
Yes.
Anybody who's suffering from any type of arthritis pain, that type of, osteoarthritis kind of thing, I think is just fantastic.
It is. It is. It's tremendous. We have 3 or 4 studies now that show noni lowers blood pressure, and it does it by inhibiting the angiotensin-converting enzyme. It's an ACE inhibitor, but without the problems of the medicines.
Well, and the question that someone's going to have right away, Richard, is, but what if I don't have, was it going to make it go too low if I don't have blood pressure issues?
That's the beauty of the naturals. It will not lower it lower than normal.
Good.
It will not cause hypotension. Let's see, Marinda Laboratories found that noni juice is a better antioxidant than vitamin C or grapeseed extract. And you know how good of antioxidants those are. Noni is packed full of antioxidants. Noni shows remarkably strong activity against the development of cholesterol plaques in arteries. This is from Kobe Kakun University in Japan. We have several studies now that show it lowers the cholesterol.
We're back, everyone, talking about the amazing wonders of noni. Now, Richard, you have some new research to share with everyone.
Yes, when we started with noni, there were about 15 or so research articles at the NIH. Now there's well over 200. It's most impressive. Let's start with noni and diabetes. One of the putative uses, reputation, cultural uses of noni is to help with diabetes. Well, they found that noni with insulin, if you're insulin-dependent diabetic, if you take noni with the insulin, it lowers the blood glucose better than either one alone. It creates a synergy. It helps dampen insulin resistance. It makes insulin more efficient. It's helpful with diabetes, okay? It also helps to protect laboratory animals, of course, from the fatty infiltration of the liver that occurs with diabetes. This is a big thing, folks. This is tremendous. Noni and ischemic brain damage. Mice pretreated with noni had smaller areas of brain damage after an induced stroke. Okay? Now, you may say, I've never had a stroke. It's not in my family history. I'm not really worried about stroke. Well, everyone, as we age, get tiny little strokes. They're so small you can't really see them with the naked eye, but they add up, and it ends with cortical atrophy, what doctors call the brain shrinks, and it shrinks because of these tiny little strokes. So even if you've never had a stroke, even if you're never at risk for it, you'll have less damage from the inevitable effects of aging from little tiny microemboli that end up in the brain, okay? Noni and gout. Noni lowers the production of uric acid in test tube studies. They're working on this in humans to see if it does, and I'm sure it will be. Well, but we have to prove that, no doubt. Pain. Noni relieves pain equal to Ultram. That's part of the new ones. And it relieves inflammation equal to hydrocortisone. That's a steroid. Calms inflammation as good as a steroid. I know many of you are on the prednisone and whatnot for autoimmune disease, asthma, this type of thing, and you're looking for ways to get off of it. Taper off slowly. That's critical with steroids. But start day one with the noni so you have that anti-inflammatory effect. Noni in smokers. Noni juice reduces the evidence of cancer changes in heavy smokers. The early signs of cancer, that's a good thing. Noni alone and with doxorubicin are effective against breast cancer cells in test tube studies. Okay, very important for cancers. Noni and skin cancer. Unique compounds in noni are effective in inhibiting the growth of melanoma cancer cells. Okay, test tube studies again. Also, noni is remarkably effective in reducing early signs of cancer in animals given carcinogens. You know, there's all these chemicals in our environment, you know, persistent organic compounds, as they're generally called, that nature does not degrade. They're man-made for the most part, right? And these things are adding up to one of the reasons why we have more cancer than ever. The world's a polluted place. And what that study found was if you take your daily noni, you're going to have less cellular evidence of that damage going on in your body. And there are other natural compounds that do that, but noni is particularly good at doing that. That's amazing to me. Intestinal parasites is an effective anti-helminth, and a lot of this is for the veterinarian science, but humans get parasites too. It's very common. In fact, worldwide, over 40% of the world's population has an intestinal parasite. Those figures are lower in the United States, but if you consider yeast and dysbiosis a parasite, which I kind of do, and a lot of doctors do, there you go. Right here in America, it's effective. Noni in chronic viral infections. It inhibits the replication of HIV and hepatitis C both. That's a huge benefit. Plus, it's liver protective for the hepatitis C patients. Boy, that's a good tonic for that. Here's one that's really interesting. Noni reduces post-op nausea and vomiting. How many of you, when you go into surgery, thank God, literally thank God for anesthesia, but you wake up so sick, so nauseous and vomiting, and that's not a good thing after an operation. You can pop a stitch. It's no fun. It hurts. So they gave humans, this is a human study, they gave humans noni juice for the week before the operation, and they found those that had the noni had half the nausea and vomiting as the placebo group. Isn't that amazing? And they think it's from the scopoletin, the promotility, keeping the intestinal motility pushing down as opposed to coming up with vomiting, right? See, that's impressive. I remember in my cancer treatment, they gave me a nausea pill that was $40 a pill. The newest best. $40 a pill. No, you can get a whole quart of noni. You can get 2 quarts of noni for less than that. Isn't that amazing? Noni and stress. Noni protects the brain from stress-induced impairment and cognitive function in laboratory animals. The brain goes numb under stress, folks. It does. We've all learned that in our life experience. A little noni juice, well, of course, animal study, of course. Noni juice helps to protect from that. Pretty remarkable. Noni and GERD. This is one of the most popular uses of noni in helping with heartburn. It's the pro-motility agent. But this study went further. They extracted the scopoletin out of the noni, okay? And they found that the whole noni works better than the scopoletin alone for heartburn. So it's not just the scopoletin. There's something else in noni that they're working to find that really helps the motility of the gut, helps with constipation, heartburn, and reflux, this type of thing. Just impressive. They're also finding novel compounds, that's what scientists call it, molecules that are found in no other plant ever found. And they're finding, I think we're up to well over a dozen, maybe 20 by now, novel, unique compounds in noni, unprecedented compounds that we had no idea even existed. But see, the safety is there for noni. It's been used for 2,000 years that we know of. That's an excellent safety profile. Noni and immunity. Noni stimulates both the cellular and humoral immune system. That's the acquired immune system and the immune system you're born with. That's the two arms of the immune system. It makes both more active and effective. Remarkable, isn't it? Stroke, we talked about that. Noni and triglycerides, we've talked about that. Total cholesterol drops. Fertility, here's a unique one which we can't explain, but I'm sure they'll find out eventually. In laboratory animals, noni increased fertility over 3 generations with no evidence of tumor formation, and the litters of the mice got bigger, and each mouse, baby pup mouse, was bigger with noni, and they followed him for 3 generations. Pretty amazing. We don't know how that happens, but it does. It's a fertility agent. Isn't that amazing? Let's go to our break. We'll return in a moment.
Wherever you live today, plant at least one noni tree.
The divine noni. This plant has been discovered by the Polynesians more than 2,000 years ago and has been used since for traditional medicine. It is known by several names: headache tree, painkiller fruit, cheese fruit, great morinda, Indian mulberry, but its Latin scientific name is Morinda. This plant has been used for a wide number of disorders, from gastric ulcers to depression, senility, arthritis, body pain, menstrual issues, AIDS, as well as ischemia, strokes, and cardiac issues, and a number of cancers.
Juice, the best energy drink in the world. gross. It's the best energy drink in the world.